I just think Conor Benn's going to win. Too young, too fresh, and although, listen, Eubank, it took a lot for him to come back after getting viciously knocked out by Liam Smith, to come back and beat Liam Smith.
I'm backing Conor Benn. I know Conor. Spoke to him a few times. Always been a top bloke to me. His dad's a top bloke. His dad's a legend. And I'll be backing him. But it's going to be difficult, as he's already alluded to, the two weight divisions coming up. But it'll also be difficult for Eubank to stay within that hydration clause, I think it is. So it's all to play for both men.
Very tough fight for Conor. Not saying he can't win it, because one big left hook could change anything. But to me, his best chance are to try to land a big shot. If that don't happen, or if he lands it and it don't hurt Chris, then it's going to be pretty rough for him, because Chris is definitely an improved fighter.
The fight between Conor Benn and Chris Eubank Jr. is just around the corner, and the boxing legends shared their final verdict on the outcome. Teddy Atlas analyzed the matchup between Chris Eubank Jr. and Conor Benn, suggesting that Eubank Jr. would likely attempt to maintain distance, utilizing his quick hands and sharp counterpunching from multiple angles. He performs best when given room to maneuver. On the other hand, Atlas predicted that Conor Benn would prioritize closing the gap, working to cut off Eubank Jr.'s space in order to restrict his mobility and technical execution, ultimately making it more difficult for him to implement his strategy.
You know, Eubank's wants to probably keep it on the outside as much as he can and use his skill sets to, use his hand speed and his ability to throw counter punches and, punches from different angles. He needs space, or space accommodates him pretty well and favors him pretty well when he has that space to do that. And I would think that Ben would like to take that space away. Like to kind of work his way in and maybe go to the body like a better BF with a Bevo.
Teddy Atlas acknowledged Eubank Jr.'s talent for maintaining control at a distance when he is fully dialed in, pointing out how effective his boxing can be with the right mental approach. He also commended Conor Benn for his blend of aggression and discipline, noting how he applies pressure without neglecting his defense. Atlas found the stark contrast in their fighting styles to be particularly intriguing.
I like the ability of Eubanks when he's right. When his focus is there, when he's right, to be able to do things in a boxing way on the outside. And I love Ben's style and his approach. I do, where, being aggressive in a responsible way, in a way a fighter should be, with paying attention to, doing it with defense, a responsibility of defense, and, just proper way to engage somebody. But the consistent offense, looking to, to engage.
Sam Jones said that he believes Conor Benn will win. He pointed out that Benn is very young and full of energy. He also mentioned that even though it took a lot for Eubank to recover after being badly knocked out by Liam Smith, Eubank still managed to come back and defeat Liam Smith.
I just think Conor Benn's going to win. Too young, too fresh, and although, listen, Eubank, it took a lot for him to come back after getting viciously knocked out by Liam Smith, to come back and beat Liam Smith.
Jones further said that the fight is happening at the right time for Conor Benn, and he favors Conor Benn in the fight. He added that Chris Eubank Jr. is a good boxer, and noted that if he had been promoted by Frank Warren or Eddie Hearn when he turned pro, he would be an even bigger star than he is now. Jones described Chris Eubank Jr. as funny, mild, and a good speaker, but he believes Conor Benn is going to chin him.
Happening at the right time, and I favour Conor Benn in the fight.
Yeah,
I think Eubank Jr. is good for boxing. Genuinely, I think Chris Jr. is good for boxing. I think that if he was promoted by a Frank Warren or an Eddie Hearn back in the day when he turned pro, he would be an even bigger star than what he is now, because of how he is. He's funny, like he's mild. He's quite funny, isn't he, Eubank Jr.? He speaks well. But yeah, I think he's good for boxing. But I just think Conor Benn's going to chin him.
Roy Jones Jr. recognized Benn's tough challenge against Eubank Jr., noting that a single left hook could be his best shot at an upset. However, if Benn fails to hurt Eubank, the fight would likely favor Eubank, who has improved significantly. Jones highlighted Eubank's growth, crediting their year of training together for making him a more formidable fighter.
Very tough fight for Conor. Not saying he can't win it, because one big left hook could change anything. But to me, his best chance are to try to land a big shot. If that don't happen, or if he lands it and it don't hurt Chris, then it's going to be pretty rough for him because Chris is definitely an improved fighter. You understand me? And like even the stuff he's doing now, he's going to continue to get better. But I think when he came down there with me for that year, it improved his foundation. You understand me? So it made him a better fighter.
Jones acknowledged Benn's strong will, particularly after Liam Smith's upset win, which could fuel Benn's belief in a similar outcome. However, he pointed out that Eubank Jr.'s size and progress make him the likely favorite, despite the fight being competitive and entertaining. While he praised both fighters, Jones emphasized that Eubank Jr.'s physical edge would probably tip the balance in his favor.
So he's going to be hard to beat for anybody, especially a guy that's smaller than him. But we saw Liam Smith pull out the upset at one time, so I know that gave Ben much more hope that he could probably do the same. So it's going to be a great fight. Both fighters are great fighters. I love both of them. I think Chris is a little bigger and has the advantage because he's bigger.
Barry McGuigan leaned toward Conor Benn, believing Eubank Jr.'s durability was compromised after his knockout loss to Liam Smith. He recalled Eubank's once reliable chin, but suggested he hasn't fully recovered. McGuigan sees Benn as the faster, more explosive puncher, hitting harder than Smith. Though he admitted Eubank's size could still play a role, he ultimately favors Benn, despite Eubank's toughness.
I think it was a great fight. I would pick Benn at the minute, simply because Eubank was cracked by Liam Smith, and he was never cracked before, and it's a summary for me. He had a great chin up to then, and then he was knocked out, and it's never quite the same again. I think Benn is a more explosive fighter than Liam Smith. He's faster. He punches hard, but then, good big one will always beat a good little one, all those cliches. But I just think I would give Ben the edge. But, Eubank's tough.
Gareth Davies claimed the fight between Conor Benn and Chris Eubank Jr. has never been bigger, especially following Benn's 2 positive drug tests. He expects Benn to come out aggressively, fueled by years of frustration, making him a serious threat early on. However, despite Benn's intensity, Davies believes Eubank's experience against tougher opponents gives him the edge, even with his age and knockout loss to Liam Smith. In the end, he predicts Eubank will win on points.
Eubank Benn.
Yeah, well, it's bigger than it ever was. It's 3 times bigger than it was before the 2 positive clomifene tests. Ben's dangerous early in that fight, in my view, because he's coming with all that stinging venom and kind of pent-up aggression that he's developed over the last 2.5 years. But I think Eubank's fought the better level of opponents, even though he's aged 2.5 years and he's been knocked out by Liam Smith. I go Eubank on point.
Davies also highlighted the excitement surrounding the fight's build-up, particularly with Nigel Benn and Chris Eubank Sr. involved. He pointed out the emotional nature of both families and how the fathers add drama to the rivalry. While some may downplay the fight's significance, Davies stressed that British boxing's deep-rooted history makes this a must-watch, especially for those who witnessed the original Benn versus Eubank battles.
I'm looking forward to the build-up once they get the fathers involved. April the 26th. Nigel and Conor are both emotional. And Chris both play the villain, don't they?
Okay.
Even though I think in this one, Eubank Jr. is going to be able to sit back a little bit. Yeah, some people are saying that they don't think the fight means anything, but I think the bloodline in British sport.
Eddie Hearn backed the matchup between Conor Benn and Chris Eubank Jr., insisting it's an evenly balanced contest between 2 top-tier fighters. He rejected notions of a mismatch, highlighting the legendary feud between their fathers. Nigel Benn and Chris Eubank Sr. Hearn also noted that the rivalry between the sons has become the most heated and hostile in British boxing today.
Know what the circus is and what you're a fool to buy into. It's a really good fight. It's a 50-50 fight between 2 guys that are world ranked in their division. I mean, he's making out like neither of them have ever boxed before. They're both useless. It's a mismatch. It's not. It's a 50-50 fight between 2 world ranked fighters who, by the way, fathers happen to be Nigel Benn and Chris Eubank, who had the biggest rivalry ever in British boxing, and, by the way, whose sons now have, by far, the biggest rivalry in British boxing.
Jamie Moore recognized that both Chris Eubank Jr. and Conor Benn are experts at hyping up a fight, successfully building massive anticipation for their showdown. He noted that the reported 120,000 people in the ticket queue proved just how much excitement the fight has generated. Moore also emphasized that this kind of event extends beyond hardcore boxing fans, drawing in casual viewers and broadening the sport's audience, which benefits boxing overall.
Listen, they know how to sell a fight, absolutely, both of them. Chris Eubank Jr. and Conor Benn, they know what they're doing, they know how to sell a fight, and everyone's talking about it. So job done. You know, I seen a thing that there was 120,000 people in the queue for tickets. So if that's the case, then phenomenal. And it's the type of fight where people who aren't boxing fans are going to be going, watching, which brings in a whole new audience, which is only a good thing for boxing.
When it came to picking a favorite, Moore leaned toward Eubank Jr., citing his experience and history of competing at a higher level and in bigger weight classes. He pointed out that Eubank's resume makes him the more battle-tested fighter. However, he admitted there were still question marks that whether Eubank could remain strong at the lower middleweight limit and if Benn's power would translate at the higher weight. Despite these uncertainties, Moore ultimately felt that Eubank's size and experience would likely be the deciding factors.
I just feel like there's weight divisions for a reason, and you have to go with Chris Eubank Jr. because Eubank's fought at a higher level in terms of the people he's fought, and at a couple of weights higher. So in theory, that's all you can go off really. Is that the bigger guy who's fought at a higher level is he's going to come out on top. The question mark is he going to still be strong at the weight? Dragging him down to middleweight. He did recently. He performed at that weight. And can Conor Benn carry his power up to middleweight? So in theory, Eubank Jr.
Carl Frampton viewed Chris Eubank Jr. as the favorite, but stressed that his performance would heavily depend on how he handles the weight cut. He pointed out the challenge of the 10-pound rehydration clause and addressed criticism regarding Eubank's weight history, clarifying that while some believed he fought at 168 pounds, he had actually been competing at 160. Frampton explained that as fighters get older, they typically move up in weight rather than cutting down, making Eubank's current weight cut more difficult. He ultimately held off on a firm prediction, stating he needed to see how Eubank looked on the scales first.
I think Eubank is the favourite, and a lot of it depends on how he makes a weight and what he looks like on the scales, and the 10-pound rehydration clause is going to be difficult for him. I've been kind of criticised a wee bit because I've been saying he's been boxing at 168. He hasn't, he's been boxing at 160, but the point I was trying to make was he has boxed at 168, and as you get older, you normally go up the weight, you don't come down the weight, so he's it's hurting him now to do 160, and I need to see what he looked like on a scale before I make a prediction.
Matt Macklin wondered how much Chris Eubank Jr. still has to offer, emphasizing that at 35 or 36 years old, his passion for the sport is uncertain. He questioned Eubank's decision to face Conor Benn instead of pursuing a world title, suggesting it raised doubts about his true intentions. Macklin speculated whether Eubank was more focused on financial gain than legacy, noting that while money matters, it isn't the strongest driving force in boxing.
I think it all depends on what Eubank's got left, which is very difficult to know. What is he now, 36 coming, or 35, 36? Does he have the appetite for boxing anymore? I don't know. He's gone for the Benn fight, hasn't he? As opposed to maybe chasing a world title shot. So, is it about money? Is it about being a world champion? I don't know what his ambitions are that's motivating him now. It seems like it's money, and even though we all need money and want money and all the rest of it, it's not actually a great motivator.
Ricky Hatton weighed in on the Conor Benn versus Chris Eubank Jr. fight, emphasizing the intrigue of Benn moving up 2 weight classes. He pointed out that Benn has yet to face an opponent like Eubank Jr., especially at a heavier weight. However, Hatton admired Benn's confidence and relentless determination, likening it to his father's mentality. While most see Eubank Jr. as the favorite, Hatton suggested that Benn's self-belief and drive could make the fight more competitive than many anticipate.
It's really interesting to think, to be honest with you. I mean, Conor's going up for 2 weight divisions. He's not fought anyone like the people that Eubank Jr has fought, you know, at his own weight, let alone 2 weights above. So it'll be very interesting. But Conor has a huge self-belief and drive, to be honest with you. You know, a drive like his dad, the Benn family. I've never seen a family with more drive and determination. So I think everything's pointing at Chris Eubank Jr. But I think I might have a sneaky few quid on Conor, to be honest with you. His drive and his confidence and his self-belief is something that I've only ever seen in a handful of people, and he's going to need that, and I think that might be enough against Eubank.
Liam Smith gave his take on the fight, predicting that Eubank Jr. will likely win on points, but acknowledging that Benn could still pull off an upset. He noted that Eubank Jr. seems to be showing signs of decline, and questioned whether making 160 pounds is taking a toll on him. Despite this, Smith sees the fight as evenly matched and wouldn't be shocked if either fighter scored a knockout, given that both have been hurt in the past. In the end, he expects a highly competitive bout.
I think Eubank beats him on points.
Eubank Benn, what do you think happens?
You know what, I'm a little bit torn at the moment, but I'll stick with what I've always said. I think Eubank beats him on points, but I won't be surprised if Conor wins. I think Eubank is firmly on the slide, and I know I get stick for saying that. I also think 160 is hurting him now. He's starting to mention it a few times, so that's why I bring Conor into it a little bit more. But like I said before, that being said, if Conor flattens Chris, I won't be surprised. I won't be like, wow, Conor's just knocked Chris out. And if Chris was the same to Conor, I won't be surprised, because Conor's been down, you know, many times before off journeyman, lesser punches than Chris, so I won't be surprised with the outcome, but I do think it's a closer fight this time round.
Joe Gallagher weighed in on the fight, stating that there's little evidence to suggest Conor Benn can beat Eubank Jr. He argued that Benn has yet to face elite competition, unlike Eubank Jr., who has been tested at a much higher level. Gallagher highlighted Eubank's experience, citing his strong showing in the World Boxing Super Series against George Groves, his knockout win over Yildirim in Turkey, and his dominant performance against James DeGale. He stressed that when Eubank Jr. is fully motivated and dialed in, his size and power make him an overwhelming challenge for Benn.
And there's nothing to suggest, and this is nothing against Conor, he's coming around, there's nothing to suggest Conor can deliver, because no one's seen him in a title fight at Southern, English, British, European. They haven't, and looking at his last performance in America too that he had while this was going, there was nothing to suggest you could beat Eubank Jr. Now you look at Eubank Jr.'s resume, yes, he's 35, 36, but he was in the World Boxing Super Series against George Groves, a big super middleweight. He went to Turkey and knocked out Yildirim. Then he ragdolled James DeGale round the ring. He's got that experience, and when he's motivated and focused, we're seeing what he did to Liam Smith. I think Eubank Jr. just think he's too big, hits too strong, and that's it.
Chris Eubank Sr. voiced his confidence in his son, Chris Eubank Jr., believing he holds the advantage over Conor Benn, particularly given Benn's struggle to make the 160-pound limit. He pointed out that Eubank Jr. has recently shown signs of diminished punch resistance, referencing his fight with Liam Smith. Though protective of his son, Eubank Sr. recognized the danger both fighters bring to the ring, but assured that Eubank Jr. will be fully prepared for the challenge ahead.
Was a fantastic fighter, is a fantastic fighter, but he's too heavy. Okay, he is a 168-pound fighter. For him to get down to 160 now is too much for him. So Conor would be fighting someone who has lost his punch resistance, which was proven with this Mr. Smith. Again, I don't talk against my son. I'm there to protect him, because I know how dangerous this young man is in Conor Benn. I know how dangerous he is. 147 fights, 147. Leave Junior alone.
Josh Taylor called the matchup between Conor Benn and Chris Eubank Jr. an exciting fight. He believes that if Eubank Jr. is at his best, he should have the edge, but he isn't entirely confident in predicting the outcome. Taylor also questioned whether the jump in weight might be too much for Benn, though he remained uncertain about how the fight would play out.
I don't know, you know, it's exciting. I think the Eubank, if he's at his best, could beat him. You know, it might be a little bit too much of a jump, but I don't know. Don't know. But Conor, you know, there's just don't know.
Johnny Fischer backed Conor Benn, sharing his admiration for both Benn and his father, whom he called a legend. He recognized the challenge Benn faces in moving up 2 weight classes, but also noted that Eubank Jr. might struggle to stay within the hydration limits. Fischer expects a tough, evenly contested fight where both men will have obstacles to overcome, making it an unpredictable and high-stakes battle.
I'm backing Conor Benn. I know Conor, spoke to him a few times, always been a top bloke to me. His dad's a top bloke, his dad's a legend, and I'll be backing him. But it's going to be difficult, as he's already alluded to, the 2 weight divisions coming up, but it'll also be difficult for Eubank to stay within that hydration clause, I think it is. So it's all to play for both men.
Mark Tibs viewed the fight between Conor Benn and Chris Eubank Jr. as a true 50-50 contest, recognizing the strengths and weaknesses of both fighters. He pointed out that Benn's relentless aggression could put Eubank under serious pressure, but also acknowledged that Eubank has faced a higher level of opposition throughout his career. Tibbs noted that Eubank's lack of activity and advancing age might work against him. In the end, he felt the way the fight plays out would likely favor Benn, giving him a slight advantage.
Well, I know what, you know, fights are won and lost on the scales. I know what he can do when you're tight for weight. I know how difficult it is when you're tight for weight, and unless you're around both of them, listen, there's pluses, there's pros and cons in that, and it really is such a 50-50. It really is. I mean, the ferocity of Conor Benn is could be overwhelming for Eubank, but Eubank, listen, he's fought the better opposition in his career, but I think he's not the most active of guys either. But and he's getting on a little bit. It's a 50-50, man. But yeah, I think the weight will suit Conor Benn, and therefore I'll give him the edge.
Hamza Sheeraz predicted that Conor Benn would defeat Eubank Jr., but admitted that, for personal reasons, he hopes Eubank wins. He explained that an Eubank victory could set up a future fight between them, which he sees as a major opportunity. Sheeraz mentioned that if he secures the WBC title, facing Eubank would be his top choice for a first defense. With limited time left at 160 pounds, he stressed that his priority isn't just defending titles, but securing the biggest fights possible.
I think Conor Benn beats Eubank, but I kind of need Eubank to win. Do you know what I mean? For myself, from a selfish perspective, I need him to win.
Did you want to fight him?
Yeah, exactly.
Would it be the first defence if you win that, or when you win that WBC title? Is that someone that you would choose?
100%, 100%. As long as obviously everyone's okay with it, it'd be that. I mean, why not? It'd be the biggest fight for me next in boxing, and I haven't got long left in the 160-pound division, so it's not me going on about taking certain defences.
Tommy Welch highlighted that while Chris Eubank Jr. loves to fight, he also has the ability to box, which might be necessary in this matchup. He noted that both Eubank Jr. and Conor Benn are natural fighters who will bring relentless aggression, predicting the fight will turn into an all-out war. Given their genuine dislike for each other, Welch expects an intense battle unlike anything seen in a long time. He emphasized that this is a must-watch fight and one he wouldn't miss.
The nice thing with Chris is that he can box as well. Like, he can box as well, and he might have to do that in this fight. You know, if he sits in, but he loves to fight. Do you know what I mean? Both of these guys love to fight. Conor is a fighter. They're going to come and smash heads to each other, and they're going to stick a war on like we haven't seen for a long while, you know, between two guys that generally dislike each other. Do you know what I mean? So it's going to be a fantastic fight. I wouldn't miss it. Do you know what I mean?
So what are your thoughts on this? Share your thoughts in the comment section and make sure to subscribe and like if you enjoyed the video.